interest to do it. When I first started very well, because once you leave the establishment, guess what they go back to do? Same practice, same thing. It doesn't change people's attitude. So many who go into this field learn very quickly you have to be kind while you enforce environmental laws. And again, as an environmental professor in a state university, you deal also with a lot of students, sometimes training people who are professionals, who are coming back for short-term or CEU training. And sometimes these people know a lot more than you who's doing the training. And that teaches you to be humble. Again, to be a professor at a university, you have to have a PhD. Nowadays, universities do not hire anybody any lower than those credentials. Requires a lot of humiliation because humbleness, that is, because students sometimes who think they know, you have to explain them in a very humble fashion the principles that you're trying to convey to them. So far, all of what I do, there's a lot of interaction with people. So a lot of people skill, communication, and a little bit and a whole lot of kindness goes a long way in this profession, in these professions. And I'll be entertaining some questions at a later time.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Patrice Goings-Boyd, and I work in the area of social work. I think that for people going into social work, you need to recognize that, as Michael said, you're doing this out of the love of God, not necessarily because you're going to make any money, because you're definitely not going to get rich out of it. You're going to do it because you love people and you care about what happens to them. The population that I work with is people who are poor, or people who have found themselves getting into a position of poverty, and people who don't have the money, or people who have mental health issues and don't know how to figure out how to get to where they're at. With my degree, it has opened up the doors of opportunity for me to do what I do in my job, but it has also opened up the doors of opportunity for Danny and I, my husband, to be able to wear different hats, as Eddie has said, doing parenting classes, going out and speaking to people about domestic abuse and things like that. So I think when you do go into social work, you need to go into it with expectations, right expectations, knowing that if you want to go further, you need to have education, but also knowing that you're working with vulnerable populations who need to know, who need you to meet them at where they're at and love them in the way that they need to be loved, meeting their personal needs so that they can reach higher for godly and spiritual needs.
My name is Greg Constantino, and I'm a lawyer. In order to become a lawyer, you have to graduate from high school. Then you have to get a college degree, graduate from college, and probably do pretty well. You have to take an entrance exam and grade well in order to get into law school. And then there'll be 3 years of law school. When you get out of law school after 3 years, you will now begin to learn how to actually practice law, because law school will not teach you how to do that. While Dr. Poku has a great training behind him with residency programs and other doctors who build into him to make him a better doctor, when you graduate from law school, that's then when you begin to learn how to practice law, and there's no guarantee that you will find a good mentor and someone to build into your life and teach you how to do things you've never done before, like ask questions of witnesses and conduct courtroom hearings and make persuasive arguments and navigate difficult legal and ethical issues. But should you get that mentorship that you will need to become an effective lawyer, then you will be on the road to a profession that requires a great deal of work for your whole life. You will read hundreds of pages every week because it will be expected that you know the law, but then you must know the medical profession in order to do a medical malpractice case. And you must know the manufacturing profession in order to do a manufacturing case. And you must know the social work profession in order to understand which parents should receive custody. So your learning doesn't end with the law. You must be curious about everything so that you can learn and explain anything you're called to learn and explain. Now, the circumstances in which you will do this explanation are difficult because you must be willing to say unpopular things, to confront the lies in our society around economics, around race, around religion, around prejudices, around politics. You must be willing to stand up and speak the truth, even when that truth will make you popular with those who love you, with your neighbors, with your friends, with your church even at times. But it is like the role of a prophet, saying what needs to be said, not what wants to be heard. And if you're willing to take on that challenge, then there are rewards both personal and professional. And the ideal of our profession that we all acknowledge is in a movie, in a story called To Kill a Mockingbird. And while you will see a lot of movies and television that portray lawyers as greedy, self-serving, and unethical, the ideal is also there in story, and we often play that movie among ourselves and actually get ethical credit for seeing it, because it reminds us of our high ideals when we take the oath to uphold the Constitution of the United States.
So, my name is Samuel Boateng, and I'm looking at you and I'm seeing somebody thinking, I want to be an engineer. And it's the same thing I was thinking when I was growing up, and I would see airplanes flying around, and I would look at television sets. I said, I would like to build an airplane. Little did I know that nobody by himself can build an airplane. So if you want to be an engineer, first think about team. It's a teamwork, and you should be able to work within that environment and be able to communicate with your team members. Okay, the road, the pathway to becoming an engineer is very scary. You know, many people are scared about some subjects, and engineers and scientists, they are like Siamese twins. Okay, if you want to become an engineer, there are things that you need to know. You have to be able to communicate. So your English or the language in which you have to communicate should be something that you pay very much attention to. You don't think you are an engineer, so you only do your mathematics. Mathematics is the language for scientists and engineers. It's like going to Russia and you don't speak Russian, and you want to reside in Russia, so you take on the task of learning the language very well. You cannot succeed in engineering without learning the language, which is mathematics and science. So the pathway to becoming an engineer in education is to take interest in mathematics and sciences. And the sciences, not just the physical sciences, the biological sciences also. And I'll go into engineering career fields. There are many areas in engineering that I myself as an engineer don't know everything. And I will ask a question, a rhetoric question at this time. You may think, how has an engineer affected my life since I woke up this morning? Think about it. Almost everything you've done to the time you came here has some